Before we begin, I just want to get two things straight.
Yes.
Definition of Christianity, which I think you and I both agree on. This should be Nicene Creed Christianity. So Orthodox, Catholic, maybe even Protestant, but it has to be the belief that Jesus died on the cross and fulfilled the scriptures. That has to be what we're because we have to define that right away. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I have no qualms with that.
Now, the definition of logical, based on earlier or otherwise known statements, events, conditions, reasonable, relating to, in accordance with, in nature, reasoning of capable of reasoning. Does that sort of where do you stand on the definition of logical?
Well, I believe the title was your idea, so I'll be happy to accommodate whatever.
Okay. Then I'm going to go with the one that pops right up on my search engine. It says based on earlier or otherwise known statements, events, conditions, reasonable. That's it.
Reasonable. I understand.
Completely simple definition, very broad. You could kind of do a lot.
Sure.
That's a definition, though. That's what we're going to go with.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to start the timer then. So, Gnostic, go for it. Yes, Joe?
No, I was just going to say, that's kind of limiting. I like I guess, Plantiga, warranted true belief, I guess, would be a better. But that's just, that's just autism. So, yeah, let's start this left.
All right, let's start this thing. I have the timer right here.
All right. So, Christianity is illogical. And the reason why is simple. Christianity claims to be a fulfillment of the Old Testament. And if you look at the Old Testament, there are so many things that we can already knock right out the park, okay? First of all, if you are to take the Bible literally for what it says, the Bible is saying that the world was created in the year 4004 BC. I mean, if you don't agree with that, the Bible's lying, because all you have to do is simply take the characters in the Bible, take the genealogy of Jesus, from Jesus all the way to Abraham, all the way to Noah, all the way to Adam, and you simply get a date of 4004 BC, roughly. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but it's around that time. Now, that is easily, I don't even have to explain how that's just completely false. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's all just a metaphor, whatever. The world was kicked off in Big Bang and all this stuff, and Adam and Eve is just the first whatever. Who knows? First whatever that means. Well, now you still have to prove that Abraham existed, Noah existed, King David, who King David claims to be. Well, that's easily checked. You can easily check out that Abraham didn't exist. The stories of Abraham in the Old Testament claim that he was in these giant wars in Syria, in the Levant, in Judea. Didn't happen. Nowhere in this historical record is there an Abraham going to war and winning giant battles over the land of Judea. Didn't happen. There is no such thing. So there you got that. Noah. I skipped Noah. I shouldn't have did that. Noah is just completely ridiculous. And I'm saying all this for a reason. I'm going to get to Christianity really before. How much time do I got?
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Noah's flood didn't happen. It claims that happened in 2800 BC. The same logic I just used. You take the characters in the Bible and you do the math. This person was this years old when you had this person as a child. You bring it back to Noah, you're in the year 2800 BC for this flood. That didn't happen. We know what was going on at the time period. We know the Sargonic Empire was on the rise. You can't have an empire with armies and weapons without a giant population. It's impossible. So there was no 8 people populating the world in 2800 BC. It didn't happen. But I say that to say this. If the Old Testament's false, then why did Jesus die for our sins? And what is sin anyway? So the reason why I'm saying this is, if Jesus died for a myth, then why did it even happen? And I'll get to I'm going to get to Jesus in my next go around, but I want to hear your response to that.
Bam! All right, there we go.
Wait, I don't get how we went from the big Abraham. Oh shit! Even well, next time level put graphics of an alarm. I don't know. I get how we got from Abraham didn't fight in wars to Jesus didn't die for our sins. But anyways, I'm just a moderator for now. So Cue up the time left for King.
Well, Gio, you're going to decide who wins.
I'll
That's
ask the question when it gets to the time. When it gets
right.
Gio,
That's what
I want you to be the impartial judge. You are going to declare who the winner is.
Oh man.
Okay. So, all right, Canadian
You son
Catholic.
of a bitch, you just did that for PR.
Go for it, buddy. All right,
All right,
I'm
Canadian
setting the
Catholic.
timer. Here we go.
Wait, should Canadian Catholic use his time better to formulate a positive argument or to just respond to Gnostic?
He can do whatever he wants. You can do whatever you want.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Okay, I will try to respond as briefly as I can. So first of all, we obviously did not hear why Christianity is illogical. We heard nothing of the sort. But I'm not blaming Mr. Neil because he said he will go back to that. So just to respond to a little bit, I mean, I thought, with all due respect, that Neil's case was appalling so far. He refers to biblical chronology that's recognized very well to be a huge literary construct that offers us a rich theological history, and he applies some American fundamentalism to it to pretty much argue that it didn't happen, therefore it's a myth. That's the first part that I think is preposterous. Secondly, he argues that Old Testament would not be true if things did not historically happen. That's another false statement, a false dichotomy. Something can be true without it being historical. That's another complete false dichotomy. The other point is, what I got at least was arguments by... So I got two things here. One was argument from silence. There is no record of Abraham fighting these wars. And the other one was simply attacking a strawman or giving me something that I should defend, something much more than I have to, right? So one point is, for example, saying that if I want to maintain that Noah existed, I have to maintain that the global flood happened. That's not the case. Well, all I have to maintain that Noah happened is that Noah existed. It's really not relevant that the global flood happened. Global flood may well be a very rich and interesting theological story, as it is recognized, as it has been recognized by many historians, Julian Willenhouse and so on and so forth. So I do think that these are horrible things. The other point was just by assertion saying that Jesus died for a myth, which, I mean, I don't know where this came from. Presumably it comes from this idea that original sin didn't happen, which I would obviously deny, but we never touched on it. So my conclusion would simply be that pretty much every single point that Mr. Neil brought up is preposterous, ridiculous, and none of them even begin to point at Christianity's illogical. In fact, the case is horrible as far as I can tell, and I concede my worst.
All right, you still have some more time left. I don't know if you want to.
A contrary devil's advocate question would be, let me think. I guess, is it contingent that the truth of Christianity relies on its historicity? And if you chuck the historicity of it, is it still true?
Yeah. So the first
I would save the questions for the end.
Okay, sure.
Oh shit! Wait, we're still doing the back and forth.
Yeah, we're gonna do a back and forth, and then there we go.
I didn't tell you that, so you didn't know.
And by the way, speaking of questions, everybody sneed those super chat questions out there for all of us to get to. Right now, Alex Redmond is the king of the super chat. Where did that graphics go, by the way?
And try not to Fed post too hard in those super chats.
Yes, unless it concerns food. Then you can feed post all you want. Feed post and sneed post. Anyway, Gnostic, your response. And should we keep a timer for this, or should we just let it flow?
Let's have a timer, then we'll...
All right, I'm gonna time it one more time. All right.
So I just found it interesting that you conceded that the flood didn't happen. That I thought was pretty interesting, because without this flood happening, where do we get to this idea of sin? Like we said, we agreed that this debate is on logical definition of based on earlier otherwise known statements, events, conditions. That was what we agreed to. So for the New Testament to be true, and it's claiming to be a fulfillment of the Old Testament, of salvation from the sins that Adam and Eve created, and that the world was flooded out and restarted under Noah. If all that didn't happen, then there's no point to the New Testament at all. There's 0 point. It doesn't make any sense at all. And so that's why I said that. I just wanted to get that out the way. But let's get into Christianity itself, okay? So it has tons of ideas of contradictions that are really important. Not just somebody said they were at one location, another person said they didn't. We're talking about who's Joseph's father. Matthew 1:16 says he is the son of Jacob. And Luke 3:23, he's the son of Heli. By the way, Luke and Matthew give two different genealogies, and I know that a lot of Christians will say one's Mary and one's Joseph, but they both say Joseph in the genealogy. So you have two Joseph genealogies that are different. That's right there is a fallacy in itself. Now the Old Test. Now the Christians changed the Ten Commandments. You have the only thing in the entire Bible given by God Himself, etched by His hand to Moses, and He gives 10 commandments. But somehow, when it gets to Christianity, they have to tweak it a little bit because for the Sabbath, who cares about the Sabbath? Remember the holy day. Let's change 4 and put it to 3. Let's take 10 and put it to 9. That they even changed around the order of the Bible books to make it so that they end on Malachi, in which Malachi ends with the need for the Messiah. The definition of the Messiah changes. The Messiah is supposed to be based on King Cyrus or King David and Moses. It's supposed to be the one who takes the 12 tribes and unites them and reigns the kingdom of heaven on earth. Did that happen? No. So as far as I know, no Messiahs came yet. There is no Messiah. In fact, Yahweh makes it very clear that anyone changes my commandments or my laws, that is the opposite of what he's looking for. He tells Jesus is technically the anti-Messiah. He's taking the law and saying the Sabbath's made for man. He's changing this. He's turning the Torah on its head in a new fashion. He's against the Jews. He's not uniting the tribes. He does the opposite. So you got that. You got, when was he born? In Luke 2:26 or Luke 2:22-6, he is born in 6 AD, which would be the time of Quirinius, or in Matthew, he's born in the days of Herod, 4 BC. That's a 10-year gap.
All right, there we go. So does Yahweh say no way to Jesus, or is that not the case? We will find out.
Just stop, Len. Just stop.
All right, Canadian Catholic, go for it.
Well, I made notes, and I'm afraid to say that this was one more really, really bad demonstration from Neil. No offense.
It's not an argument.
Of course, it's not an argument because there was no argument here. It was just a bunch of assertions. But I think even assertions were horrible. That's actually even worse and preposterous. So first of all, I would like to. Can I finish? Isn't it my turn?
Neil, please. I think if it's timed, then everyone should
Start it over. But actually give an argument this time. Don't just say you didn't.
All right, here. We're starting over.
3, 2. It's
okay, that's fine. So the first thing that I would like to explain to Neil and educate him on is that flood has nothing to do with original sin. This is well known in Christian theology and even in the Old Testament. The flood story has nothing to do. The other point is that I do believe in flood. I don't believe in the global flood, and I don't have to believe that either way. So nothing in maintaining original sin is concerned with the global flood having happened. This is just ignorance, and I would appreciate encouragement. The second point is biblical contradictions, and my philosophical case is simple. No biblical contradiction could in principle show that Christianity is illogical, because no one can argue, for example, that God could not preserve 2 documents that on their face are contradictory to give a greater point. Does Neil have an argument against that? Of course not. Let's assume, for example, in the case of genealogies, that Luke's genealogy and Matthew's genealogy are based on 2 perhaps contradictory Jewish documents that were important to Gentiles to assess Jesus's pedigree. Is that not inspired, even if they are prima facie not both historically accurate? Of course they can be. So there is no case absolutely to be made. It's just ignorance nonsense. Now, another point here was about... Christians changed the Torah. So now there's a lot I could delve into, but the more important thing in reading Paul is, well, when we're talking about change, what are Christians concerned with, right? If Christians were concerned with keeping the Torah, then indeed they've changed it. But Christians aren't concerned with keeping the Torah when we're concerned with keeping the 10 Commandments. What we're concerned with is keeping the 10 Commandments as part of natural law, which is what Paul argues for. Paul argues for keeping what Christians call natural law, of course, and it was the great medieval theologian John Duns Scotus that identified that all 10 commandments deal with natural law. So so when we have 10 commandments, we're not interested in furthering the Torah or the Jewish religion. We don't follow the Jewish religion. We follow the Christian religion. As it happens, the Torah has applicability for natural law, and that's why we're happy keeping it. So we are keeping it as far as it comports with natural law, and as that happens, keeping the Sabbath has nothing to do with natural law, though the underlying idea behind keeping the Sabbath does. So, no Messiah. I don't even remember what this was, but his argument was, Well, I mean, I think it was a very badly formed argument about how Jesus wasn't the Messiah that Jews expected, which we would have to get into more specifically, but I don't know. When was Jesus born has the same exact problem that Neil brought up. If it so happens, for example, that Luke's point is less to do history and to do maybe Greek biography, and he did so infallibly, why is that not inspired? Of course, Neil has nothing to say here. Absolutely nothing to answer to that. He just
Of course I do.
Can I finish? So has nothing to say here. So quite frankly, I see absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Neil has presented to argue that Christianity is illogical. Just throw out a bunch of assertions. There is no argument, no inference, nothing. It's, as far as I can tell, a non sequitur. And here, in fact, to just demonstrate Neil's ignorance. Okay, sure. I'll stop.
All right. It is funny,
So,
by the way, how a Gnostic just said like one sentence. Like, I have a feeling like if Gnostic would have just uttered like then Canadian Catholic would have been allowed to let me finish. But anyway,
no, but like fair. To be fair, though, but before you answer, Gnostic, I have one question. There are sort of, I think, many disagreements between Thomists and people that follow Duns Scotus. But just for clarity's sake, are you equating sort of the logical soundness of Christianity with natural law itself? And what would you say to other people who are not as favorable to natural law, even certain sects of orthodoxy?
Hold that question, because I don't want to get off. I don't want to.
Okay, yeah. So Neo, you go
That's
ahead.
a good question, though. That's a good question.
But that's all my own theological nerddom.
I'll get to it.
So.
I promise. I'll get to it. But I want to get my last little segment in real quick before we start.
Here we go.
All right.
Here we go. This is the last time one. After that, we can have more of a free flow. Here we go.
All right. Numbers 23:19 says that God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak not, then act? Does he promise and not fulfill? So there's so much in there that already debunks Christianity. Jesus is a man, period. He died. If he didn't die and have blood, then he wasn't a man. So, and changing his mind is you're talking about fulfilling the Torah and making it part of natural law. That's God changing his mind, because he didn't tell anyone in the Old Testament he was going to do that. He didn't tell anyone in the Old Testament about his son at all. He doesn't mention Jesus. So that's God changing his mind. That's directly twisting and making this completely illogical by the definition of the word logical that we agreed on. This makes the whole thing illogical. So let's get into the text then. So why would you trust sources that there's only 7 authentic epistles of Paul and the rest are written by some pseudo name? For James, for example, James is supposed to be the brother of the Lord, James the Just. Well, according to Josephus, he dies by getting stoned to death. According to another church father, he gets thrown down a top of a building. How did he die? Which one is it? I don't know. You tell me. And his epistle is written to the 12 tribes dispersed. He supposedly died in 62 AD. The tribes weren't dispersed till 70 AD. So who wrote James? I don't know. The whole thing becomes completely illogical. And as far as what you asked me about the Old Testament and the New Testament, about the Messiah not coming, if the fulfillments of the messianic prophecies are not fulfilled, the Messiah never came. It doesn't matter if he says he's going to come back. The 1,000-year reign of Satan being chained up has been done. In fact, in the year 1000, Pope Sylvester II came out and said, "This is it. This is the end times, guys. This is it." Everyone went crazy for 30 years, and nothing happened, because it's never going to happen, because Christianity's false.
All right, that's it. Pope Sylvester II was also purported to have said right afterwards, "Suffer and succotash." But anyway,
you were waiting for you were just waiting for that joke. Anyways,
just imagine Sylvester the Cat in the Hat. Anyway, so this
Catholic's final segment.
Yes.
And answer why Jesus is a false prophet Messiah.
Sure. So we've done 3 segments so far, and we can't even make one inference that says therefore Christianity is false. In fact, everything suggested Niels assumes it.
I thought you don't understand.
Are we going to keep him interrupting? So the point is that I think this is a miserable failure. I mean, if all of those arguments are non sequitur and there aren't even arguments, then what are we even doing here? So I would say that's a miserable failure. Now, God doesn't lie. This is an interesting passage because Now, again, I'm just stuck here explaining single passages, which is basically, instead of Neil making an argument, he's just asking me to help him exegete passages. I'm happy to do that, but that has nothing to do with Christianity being illogical. But I'll do that, fine. So the one thing about numbers, I'll do systematic theology for him, is that God isn't a man that he should lie. We agree with that. God isn't a man that he should lie, and God never lied. And at that time, God wasn't ever incarnated. So I guess that statement makes sense. I don't see what the problem there is. Jesus is a man, obviously. Now, James the Just, how did he die?
What about
Um,
changing his mind? You didn't get to that part. You skipped that part.
Well, hold on. Let him finish.
Does God change his mind? Well, God doesn't have a mind, so how can he change his mind? What does that mean? God doesn't have multiplicity of thoughts. That's not our view. So you're just making stuff up there. So obviously God never changes his mind because God doesn't have a mind. How could he change what he doesn't have? Now, the important part here is James the Just. How did he die? I don't see what makes the question of a legitimate historical disagreement between some sources. What here would be the inference? Therefore, Christianity is illogical. That's just, there is none. But again, he's asking me to help him out, and I'll be happy to. I don't know which one is more reliable. It seems like Josephus has a bunch of things going on. The other thing is pseudepigrapha. No argument was given why pseudepigrapha can't be inspired. All that's required for inspiration is that it carry a theological message sanctioned by God in its entirety. That's all that's required for inspiration. It being written by James is not required. I do believe it was written by James, but I don't have to affirm that in order to argue that it is inspired. So 3 segments went by, and none of these things can be taken together, and we can't make a single inference that Christianity is illogical. So what we've had here is Neil basically asking me to help him out with systematic theology, Neil asking me to help him out with exegesis, which I'm happy to do, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the debate topic or him, explaining what his method is supposed to be, other than asking, okay, there's tough questions in systematic theology, why don't you help me out? I mean, Neil, if you wanted to, you could have just invited me and asked me, help me out, I need your help, and I'd have been happy to help you and educate you. That's no problem. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so before your response, I just want to make an announcement.
That was brutal.
All the people who are new here, don't forget to become members of the BTR Discord. I just posted the link in the chat, so there we go. Anyway, Neil, go for it.
Neil's about to gnaw his chain off right now.
You say that God doesn't have a mind, therefore he can't change his mind. So when he gives the law, and he has specific things that he does not want the Israelites to do, and then the Messiah comes, he's supposed to fulfill this. He's supposed to unite the tribes. He's supposed to usher kingdom on earth, Olam Haba, the world to come. And that doesn't happen. And instead, the tribes are dispersed, Jerusalem falls, and the law is completely abolished. That's what I mean by changing his mind and not fulfilling his promises. That's what I mean by that. That's a very clear thing. If you can't understand that, that's not my fault.